How could an America who could morally, spiritually, and biblically justify the kidnapping, raping, and pillaging of another two people, natives already in America and Africans brought to America, and perhaps had God not sent us to America, America might have self-destructed by now. That's how insane the social construct of racism is, and white superiority. That's how insane. This is an insane. Do you understand that this is an insane concept? The most egregious concept of slavery, because Africans were familiar with slavery, but you were indentured, you were enslaved to work on a pyramid, but then you went home. No. They took it to a whole new level. No, not only are you enslaved, but when you have children, they will be enslaved. And when they have children, they will be enslaved. And you will be enslaved, your whole family, for, about 250 years until it's illegal. That had never been created before. So the concept of racism and the most egregious form of slavery is simple insanity. How another human being can come up with something like that and sustain it for centuries is a clear sign of insanity. I want you to write this down. I want you to go on YouTube today or tomorrow, and I want you to search Toni Morrison and Charlie Rose. How many of you know who Charlie Rose is? One of the best interviewers on PBS. Toni Morrison and Charlie Rose interview. Charlie Rose asked Toni Morrison, what did she think about racism? Toni Morrison, one of the most brilliant minds on the planet, not just black, Nobel laureate, Pulitzer Prize winning Toni Morrison, looked at Charlie with the seriousness of a heart attack and said, that is the wrong question, Charlie. The question is, what do you think about racism? Charlie Rose is white. She said, because racism feels insane to me. And it is insane. So my advice to you, Charlie, is that white people get therapy.
I don't mean to say this like to be disrespectful, and maybe this is, some people are going to think this sounds dumb, but I feel like there's a deeper reason why, people of color and specifically the Black community have been relentlessly persecuted. Just the things that happened during slavery alone, were insane. But I don't know, the more I learn about Black history and the ways that, people who literally worked in the government, like the CIA, all these different people in power were trying to ruin the Black community. And it makes me think, dude, I feel like, is there something more going on here than just racism? Because it's like, come on, you're telling me you're doing all of this stuff just because you don't like someone's skin color? I feel like, I have this theory that, what if Black people have some type of superpower? What if they have, I don't know, if they're just born with something very valuable that we don't really know about, but maybe, like I said, these rich people and these people in power, maybe they figured it out a long time ago, and maybe that's why they were like, oh, we have to get rid of them, blah blah blah. I don't know, I feel like maybe they have something special that we are not taught about that is linked to them being people of color, And I've seen some Black creators come on here and try to explain how special it is to have melanin in your skin and how it has all these different properties. But I don't know, I just feel like I have this theory that this goes so much deeper than maybe a lot of us realize, because I'm sorry, but I don't think you're gonna go out of your way for all these hundreds and hundreds of years to try to ruin one group of people over something as silly as, oh, their skin is a different color. I feel like there's something that we don't know.
Racism is a form of mental illness. I have a little bit of a different analogy, and I hope you'll hear me out. I prefer to look at it not as a mental illness for a couple of reasons, but one, There's so many people who live with mental illnesses that aren't harmful. It doesn't cause them to be bigots. It doesn't cause them to be violent. I like to actually equate it to a cult because then we also have some accountability. If it's just a mental illness that we have to learn how to cope with or deal with, then we're not accountable for the ways that we participate, the harm that we cause. But if it's a cult, we can acknowledge that maybe we didn't build the system. It was a lens that we grew up with. It was a way of thinking that we were raised in, that we've been socialized in. But once we get new information, we can make different choices. And that is a very hopeful place to live in for me, because once I acknowledge that the ideas that I was raised with, the systems that I was raised with, the society that I was raised in was deeply harmful to a lot of people, I can choose to dismantle that system of oppression. I can be accountable for my actions. I can be responsible then for also building something new. And I get to participate then in the building of new, more equitable, more just ways of being and collective liberation.
Oh, what's up, good people? Welcome back to the channel. So in this particular channel, many a times I have always insisted that racism, colonialism, and white supremacy are not a black people's problem. It's not a responsibility of black people to undo that system. It is a white people's problem. However, because we black people are the victims, the response is our responsibility. And that is what I want us to talk about in this particular video. And what we are going to talk about in this commentary might not be very popular with some of the people, but it still remains the truth. And we have to talk about it regardless. So in this commentary, I want us to break down one of the most important messages from Dr. George Fraser. Many of us might have already come across this gentleman, a man who has spent a lot of years, decades, studying Black empowerment, Black economic empowerment, and of course, the psychology behind racism. And in this particular video, he makes a very strong point that's very uncomfortable, but equally very necessary, that racism continues to be very effective on black people, not because black people are weak. It continues neocolonialism, which, you know, is really the aftermath of colonialism of white people in Africa, continues to be effective on black people in the continent of Africa, not because these people are weak, but because we are not united as a black community, as a black people. We are not united in a way that truly produces power to shield ourselves against this. And something I have always insisted on this channel is that it's not a neighborhood unity. It's not a unity of neighborhood, of living together geographically. No, it's a unity of ideological thinking, a kind of, you know, economic unity, cultural unity, and even political unity. So that's what I want us to talk about. And before we go well into this video, I want to share the entire video by George Fraser. And at the tail end of this, I will be, you know, doing a good commentary and an analysis of this message. So stay tuned.
How could an America who could morally, spiritually, and biblically justify the kidnapping, raping, and pillaging of another two people, natives already in America and Africans brought to America, and perhaps had God not sent us to America, America might have self-destructed by now. That's how insane the social construct of racism is, and white superiority. That's how insane. This is an insane. Do you understand that this is an insane concept? The most egregious concept of slavery, because Africans were familiar with slavery, but you were indentured. You were enslaved to work on a pyramid, but then you went home. No. They took it to a whole new level. No, not only are you enslaved, But when you have children, they will be enslaved. And when they have children, they will be enslaved. And you will be enslaved, your whole family, for, about 250 years until it's illegal. That had never been created before. So the concept of racism and the most egregious form of slavery is simple insanity. How another human being can come up with something like that and sustain it for centuries is a clear sign of insanity. I want you to write this down. I want you to go on YouTube today or tomorrow, and I want you to search Toni Morrison and Charlie Rose. How many of you know who Charlie Rose is? One of the best interviewers on PBS. Toni Morrison and Charlie Rose interview. Charlie Rose asked Toni Morrison, what did she think about racism? Toni Morrison, one of the most brilliant minds on the planet, not just black, Nobel laureate, Pulitzer Prize winning Toni Morrison, looked at Charlie with the seriousness of a heart attack and said, that is the wrong question, Charlie. The question is, what do you think about racism? Charlie Rose is white. She said, because racism feels insane to me. And it is insane. So my advice to you, Charlie, is that white people get therapy. That's what she told Charlie Rose on public television. Y'all need to get therapy. I don't know why more of America isn't talking about this. And leave black people alone and not let your insanity drive us insane. Because that's what you're trying to do. And they have done a very good job. So I have come to the conclusion as a 70-year-old black man living in America, we cannot fix white people. We haven't been able to fix them in 400 years. We cannot fix them. White people must fix white people. This is what Toni Morrison said. Y'all got to fix yourself. We can't fix you. We have failed. You got to fix you. But we can fix ourselves. That's the most important thing. We can undo over time some of the damage done to us by their insanity. And we are damaged goods. I don't have to explain that to you, right? Just look at our behavior. So we are damaged goods, and we need to work on us. We can fix us. In fact, white folks are not going to fix us. Do you understand that? They haven't in 400 years. Who are white folks going to fix? White folks. Asians are going to fix Asians. East Indians are working on East Indians. They ain't working on you, right? Arabs are working on Arabs. Our Jewish brothers and sisters are working on their issues and their people. That's who they should be working on. So they're not going to fix us. I have a good white friend who said to me, George, I know what black people's problem is. I said, oh, really, Bob? What is black people's problem? He said, you spend all of your time thinking about us, and we don't spend any of our time thinking about you. So, George, if you're not thinking about you, and we damn sure ain't thinking about you, who's thinking about you? I had to do the Holy Ghost dance. I had no comeback. I had no comeback. So that's right. So we have to spend our time working on us. And there is much work to do, right? So we'll put a pin in that thought. Look at a very, very short video that speaks powerfully to one of the reasons you must be at the Power Networking Conference in your own backyard. It is a concept that I have been working on for 30 years. And now I don't know if you know, but I'm the brother that came up with the term connect the dots. Right? I've been saying that for almost 30 years. It's now a very, very popular phrase, but if you read any of my books, the first one to say that, the first one to put that together. So I think Cassandra is going to start this piece, and let me frame it up for you. Just hold on one second, Cassandra. This was a piece I did 8 years ago at Eddie Long's church in Atlanta during the State of Black America with Tavis Smiley. How many of you remember those big all-day programs, the State of Black America? And I was called upon to be on the stage with the likes of Minister Farrakhan, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Cornel West, Michael Eric Dyson, the who's who of Black intelligentsia. And I talked about my concept of connecting the dots. And someone found this on YouTube, because Tavis videotaped it, excerpted the soundtrack from the piece, and then put together a little drawing that illustrated this idea of connecting the dots.
I prepared a chart. And this is a chart that I think says in another way what he so profoundly provided us today. This chart to me represents beautiful, educated, moneyed black people all over America. It could represent black organizations, it could represent black churches, it could represent black social and civic organizations. And what you will notice about these beautiful black people all over America is that everybody is doing their own thing, caught up in a Eurocentric value of rugged individualism, having forgotten that it takes a village to raise a child. There is no power here, brothers and sisters. There is no power here. Power is most effective concentrated. You can take a 55-gallon drum of water, spill it over, it will disperse, find its own level, and eventually evaporate. You can take that same 55-gallon drum of water, put it under pressure, put a lid on it, put a hose in it, put a nozzle on the end of that hose, and it can cut concrete. There is no power with us being disconnected. See, there's nothing wrong with dispersion. I live in Cleveland, you live in Atlanta. We have folk in the Caribbean, we have folk in Africa. That's dispersion. That's okay, but we do not have to be disconnected. We are a disconnected people. We are powerless in disconnection. This is where all the power is. You see? This is where all the power is. Whether you are at the center of your own network or part of someone else's network, this is where the power is. There's a beautiful African proverb that says, when spiders unite, they can tie up a lion. When we connect, because we are disconnected, we're disconnected from those of like mind. We're disconnected from the best practices in our community. I don't care what it is that you want to do, what profession you want to engage in, what business you want to get into. I can introduce you to brothers and sisters all over America they are doing it to death. You just don't know who they are. You are disconnected from them. There is no power in disconnection. Okay? When we connect, we prevent interlopers from coming into our communities and taking and destroying at will.
All right, George.
Try to open up the Booker T. Washington delicatessen in Chinatown and see what happens. So we must connect. We must connect the dots. That must be the movement for our people in the 21st century. We need a lot of us doing a little instead of a few of us doing a lot. We need to get together to get ahead. That is why we must network.
Okay, welcome back, and you have listened to this gentleman, and I believe we have learned a lot. Now, I have a small presentation of my analysis to this message by Dr. George Fraser. And so, first of all, racism is a white problem to fix. It's a white people's problem to fix. Yeah. And Dr. Fraser emphasizes that racism has always been a white problem to fix. And it is their problem because, well, they created it, they benefit from it, and they maintain the system that sustains it. And until white people really internally decide to dismantle the system, to dismantle racism, to dismantle the systems of colonialism, they will continue to project their own fears, their own insecurities, like we see every day, and their own power dynamics onto Black people. So the burden of actually dismantling, destroying racism is not on us as Black people, it is on them. However, this doesn't mean that we, as Black people, now just sit around and wait, because history proves one thing for sure, that waiting for justice is a guaranteed way to never have the justice. Yeah. Now, so this leads us to the second point in this conversation, that so what can we as Black people do then? Because we cannot just sit and wait. And Fraser says that while racism is a white responsibility, the response to racism and the shield we build against this problem is our responsibility, fair and square. And this shield is nothing but unity. And he draws a very clear line. It's not a unity of geography. It's a unity of ideology, a unity of identity, unity of economic engagement, and a unity of political intent or political intention and long-term strategy. Yeah. So because we can actually live, and we of course live in different parts of this world as Black people, in different continents, different countries. We speak different languages. We even speak the same language with different accents. And we hold different documentation, say different passport, different national identities, but we can still be united and unified by one common ground, our Blackness. So Black people with a shared purpose. And that's what power really is, And this leads us to talk about, how the lack of unity makes racism, makes colonialism so effective on Black people across the world, in the Americas, in Africa, and even in Europe. So racism actually thrives on the basis of division of Black people. And if you atomize, if you divide the people, you automatically weaken that people. If you divide them by class, by tribe, by skin tone, by nationality, even by religion, you strip them of that collective strength that comes when people are united. So this is why racism has remained very effective for so long on Black people. Black people are very many, numerous across the world. We number up to, over 1.6 billion globally, but our power is very fragmented. And currently we're still continuing with minor fights amongst Black people. And, Black Americans don't want to be associated with Black people in the Caribbean, with Black people in Africa. Africans don't want to be associated with African Americans, because there is a problem. There is a big problem in that fragmentation. And we have numbers, but numbers really don't matter and will never matter if we don't have coordination. We have brilliance, but brilliance does not matter if we don't have structure and we don't have strategy. It doesn't matter. You can have individual brilliance, but this is a game of teamwork. It's like soccer. It's like football. You cannot win on your own. You have to have people flank you by your side. You have to be a team. We have culture, but culture doesn't matter without, economic direction, for example. So Fraser argues that until we unify our worldview, our economics, and our identity, racism will always find, a way to divide us, to weaken us. And it leads us to also talk about something else. Unity does not require proximity. Yeah. Unity does not require us to live together. And this is one of Dr. Fraser's most overlooked points, and one that we are really undermining today, currently, very much. Black unity does not depend on us living in the same neighborhood. For example, Black people in America, you don't have to live in the same states. You don't have to all of them suddenly want to immigrate, relocate to the Caribbeans, relocate to Africa. You can be in Africa, in a city in Africa, Lagos in Nigeria, Nairobi in Kenya. You can be in Atlanta, Georgia in America. You can be in Kingston, Jamaica, Port-au-Prince in Haiti, or even Cape Town, Toronto, or London, in Europe. And we can still be united despite all, the physical, the geographical differences and distances. And this is what we are trying to, talk about when we say it's not about proximity. Unity does not require physical proximity. It is ideological, sharing an ideology. And white people have really mastered this point. White people are always white people, and they don't live together. You see, Europe is always moving with the same frequency, same pace with white America. And the other day, we saw Trump lock out borders for any other, asylum seekers. But he expedites the relocation of white Afrikaners from South Africa. Why? Because they are white, and gives them an expedited, he funds everything so they can settle in America. It really tells you about how these people work, how white people work, and that is what we are missing out. White people have never been a majority in the world, but they control most of the power because they have mastered this craft of uniting. So it is their understanding that wherever you are in the world, you represent more than just your personal self. You represent more than yourself. You represent all of us. You basically represent Blackness. You represent a global community. We have to understand that. And it's believing that when a Black child in America succeeds, that's a win for Black people in Africa. When a Black entrepreneur grows, business-wise in the Caribbean, that's a win for Black people in Europe. When a Black scientist breaks the barriers, for example, wherever they are, that's a win for all Black people everywhere, globally. It's a common win. So this is the unity Dr. Fraser is talking about. It's not proximity, it's not location, but it's consciousness, And this leads us to talk about the root of liberation. So what is liberation? Where does it come from? So Dr. Fraser here does not sugarcoat. He puts it plainly that you can never be free until you have power. See, freedom is never given. It's fought for, it's earned, a price has to be paid for it. And Black people already know that. Black people in America have fought for hundreds of years to just have what they have today, and still they don't have it all. Black people in Africa have fought for centuries just to chase away the visitors they accommodated in their lands. But still, they are being controlled remotely from offices in Europe, in America, by the white people. So it tells you that we can never be free. You cannot have freedom until you have power. And freedom is in the modern world is not a feeling, it's not symbolic, it's not an emotion. Freedom is nothing else, it's power. that's the definition of freedom in the modern world. And it's economic power, it's political power, it's even informational power, it's cultural power, and psychological power. So if the Black community worldwide does not control the levers of power, then our place in the global system, in the global community, will still always remain the same, vulnerable. This is why unity, our unity really matters, because unity creates one thing. It creates power. Power creates freedom. And freedom gives you the ability to define, your own destiny, because, if you don't define your own destiny, then you will always be reacting to someone else's, And so the future really depends on us. That's the point. We have squarely, the future is on our hands and depends on what we do. And Fraser's message here is not about blame particularly. It's about a responsibility and possibility. What can really happen to us if we do the right thing and if we don't do the right thing. We may not control racism. We may not control how those colonial powers behave, because we did not create it in the first place. But we absolutely control how we organize, how we respond, and how we think, how we invest in ourselves, and how we define our future is directly tied to all of this. Black people across the world do not need to be in the same room, in the same locality, in the same geographical space, to be united. We only need to have a shared mission. We only need to have a shared mindset, a commitment to building real, power within our global community. Because until we master unity, like what those other people are doing, we will always be reacting to the world. What people do, and so we get direction from it, or they tell us what to do, and they tell us who we are. And but once we unite, ideologically, economically, culturally, we stop reacting. And with all this massive Black power across the world, with all those numbers, with all that Black excellence and Black brilliance, if we really, really unite, we will start shaping what the world really looks like. Yeah, so that's my message for you today. I have really enjoyed this particular message, and a good thing with knowledge, it never expires. Yeah, and I believe you have also learned. Do share with me what you think about this message, or what you think about the entire of this video in the comment section below. If you like this video and these kinds of videos, then give this video a thumbs up, share it, and kindly subscribe to the channel if it is your first time, or if you haven't yet subscribed. And I'll see you in the next video.